I doing? Thinking about moving things.
Yeah, don't move in. I was done.
But still, it's just because the person made that remark too. Who cares? Your daughter thought it was a very neat and tidy.
It is a neat and tidy space.
Yes.
It's just not a very neat and tidy background.
I know, background.
Hi, friends. This video is called BLM, a most insidious racism. Yeah, it really is a most insidious racism.
No, I can't laugh hard.
Black Lives Matter is no better than the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan.
True.
The same
Good
fucking
comparison.
thing.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Divisive, racist, separatism.
Taking out statues and stuff like that. That is absolutely what
Committing crimes. No, not acceptable. And of course, in attempting to frame everything for race, it necessarily ignores all of the meaningful, substantive policy issues associated with the actual problem. This is what I mean by a most insidious racism. People who are in favor of Black Lives Matter are inherently racist, and racism is bad. Why? Because any invocation of race is inherently racist. It's not a relevant factor in anything. So, in other words, we have to make public policy decisions. We don't have to understand people's mental processes or their motivations for why they committed a crime. We just need to make good public policy decisions. So we're going to make very bad public policy decisions if we think it's okay to commit crimes in the name of your political advocacy. That if it's okay to divisively separate the world into black and not black, that it's okay to frame what is fundamentally a rights violation issue as something else. And none of those things are okay.
Could you do me a favor?
I could do you any number of favors.
Actually, then it'd be 2 favors.
Sure. I'm a favor doer.
Could you open up the door window so it's easier, so you don't have to keep on. We don't have to keep on moving past each other. Yeah, babe. That tush.
That is my tush. Sometimes known as my buttocks.
Yes. Thank you, Stella.
All life matters except Antichrist life? What's Antichrist life? Is that like potato bugs? Potato bugs' lives don't matter much. Okay, I gotta admit that. Potato bugs are just so disgusting.
Oh my god, that's fucking hysterical.
YouTube does not like me talking about controversial shit.
No, you were I had actual trouble getting into your bedtime stories.
It's 18 plus.
Yep.
I made it that way just to cover my ass, so to speak, you know.
Good.
What did you have to say yes or 18?
Say my age and stuff, yeah.
Interesting. So I'm sure there's no
beauty pants.
No promotion of it, that's for sure. The USA is a ridiculous country in so many ways, I have to say. Well, we're ridicule. That's a fair critique. The USA is a ridiculous country in so many ways. But, you know, it's my country. I'm a patriot. It's home.
To talk about this stuff on public streaming.
I can still complain.
Yeah. There's no one shutting you down, really. It's just because you put the 18 plus thing I saw.
Yeah, this one I decided I made normal, even though it's about something controversial, because I'm going to not get too blue, as they say, in the comedy business. You know, they refer to comedy that includes like adultish stuff as blue comedy.
Is that what Benny?
No,
Oh,
I know what you're thinking of.
Yeah, I've seen him.
I know who you're thinking of.
I like him.
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce.
I don't think I've ever really heard him. I've just heard of him.
They used some of his comedy in a TV show actually on Amazon, and he was very much. He could have been a ENTP who went bad. You know, didn't have like. He had a lot of trouble with cops. Like he was constantly getting arrested for his comedy because he was always saying like, sexual things, black off.
Blue humor.
Blue humor, yeah. Maybe that's why they call it blue humor because it would constantly bring in the blue.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's good NI right there.
Thanks, Meg.
Swedes are crazy. Why they do things so crazy, I don't know. Hi, Rafael Alvaros.
Hey.
Rafael Alvaros.
Oh.
He's the one who recommended I try saying it in a Spanish accent, and I'd have no trouble pronouncing it. He was right.
See? With Eric has no problem admitting when he's wrong. That's not a narcissist.
That's true. I'm not a narcissist. I'm what's known as a barcissist. I put bars all over everything. Oh, why are there more bars on the windows? Oh, Eric's a barcissist. Am I trigger streaming? I guess I just felt like, God, this stuff's dumb. Can't everybody see how stupid it is? So, you know, I just decided to make a live stream about it. I want to be clear that Black Lives Matter is an insidious form of racism, one of the most insidious forms. It's incredibly divisive. It necessarily redirects our attention away from the actual issue, which is rights violation, towards this non-issue of people's mental processes. And everybody needs to listen to me. The end. Are you happy now, Faye Lynch? Do you understand the truth? Have you had the truth revealed to you by the stream of life that comes from my mouth? Model G2. Sometimes provocative content is good. Not sure about this time, though. I mean, my position is correct, so of course it's good. My position is that it's inherently divisive to invoke race, that race is a non-thing, an arbitrary self-identification, either conferred onto somebody else or self-identified, and that it meaningfully detracts from our attention on the actual issue, which is rights violation. Cops should absolutely not be behaving as they are. It has nothing to do with race. So,
I'm nodding.
That's why if you want to say provocative content, maybe not this time, well, you're wrong. I suggest we address the issue at hand, which is the police need to treat the citizens as citizens and not treat them as the enemy when they commit some sort of crime. We need to get rid of drug laws entirely, because any law that can be arbitrarily enforced by the cops and have them get away with it. In other words, any kind of enforcement of a crime, quote unquote, that results in a cop being able to say, oh, you can go free and nobody has a problem with it, that's going to happen. And then those people are going to express their actual biases. So they are groupist in some way. Maybe they're racist. Maybe they're sexist. Every cop is almost certainly at least this. They'll let their own friends and family go for consensual crimes, be they drug crimes or be they traffic tickets or things like that, right? So the point is, it doesn't matter which bias is being expressed in law enforcement. Bias being expressed in law enforcement is a problem. But the problem is that the laws that can be enforced arbitrarily will necessarily be enforced arbitrarily and therefore will express some sort of bias. We need to address those laws and we need to address the behavior of the police We do not need to invoke the issue of race because that's inherently divisive and missing the fucking point. Here in Southern California, you want to talk about the group that is most likely to get killed by the police. It's not black people, it's Mexicans. So why do we call this thing Black Lives Matter? In places in the country where the population is very homogenous, full of nothing but white people, like Kansas, the people who get fucked are the poor white people.
In New York, it used to be pot smokers. It's drugs in New York.
In places where pot's illegal and they like to enforce it a lot, it's the young people who disproportionately get impacted, and not the old. That's wrong too. It doesn't matter how many minorities BLM claims to represent. The problem is by focusing on race, they are missing all the substantive policy issues. There is no policy decision we can make that's race-based that's a good idea. And so as a consequence, focusing our attention on race means we are necessarily missing all the substantive policy points.
You're a beautiful kitty friend.
I mean, sure, I've evaluated all those ideas, Cloud, but the problem is I have a better understanding of system dynamics than you do, so I understand that's not really meaningful. It's not a meaningful distinction. If you're talking about a meta system that has control over a chaotic system, then you are talking about magical thinking, and that's fine, but it's not a meaningful argument. What do you think BLM is all about? It's about police reform by pointing out the disproportionate police brutality on minorities. It's not what it's about. As far as I can tell, it's about committing crimes, trying to defund the police, trying to have police-free zones, and meaningfully not addressing and ignoring all the substantive policy questions. There's nothing to suggest to me that BLM cares at all about fixing things. If BLM cared about fixing things, they'd be talking about the same issues I'm talking about, not the shit they're talking about. That's my point. That's what makes it such an insidious form of racism. BLM is awful. It's the devil. It's a bunch of racists. I am addressing them. BLM, you are a bunch of racists. You are awful, and you are a bunch of racists. If you agree with BLM, then you are a racist and awful and part of the problem. You specifically, Seventh Circle, if you agree with it, you are part of the problem. I'm addressing you specifically now. If they cared about police reform, it would be called Police Reform Matters. And I'd be entirely in favor of it. I absolutely have the affirmative. I have all the affirmative ground and all the negative ground. In other words, the Black Lives Matter aren't affirming any policy prescriptions whatsoever. There is not a single policy advocacy that is meaningful that's being made. Things like defund the police are not meaningful policy advocacies. And to the extent that policy advocacies are being made meaningfully, they're not being meaningfully made by people who are focused on race. It's not possible to meaningfully have a policy advocacy that's race-based, is it? Without being racist. Race is not a real thing. Let me read my debate cards again. Jones, A, and C, which inform us that, in fact, race is not a real thing. It's arbitrary self-identification, either conferred onto others by me, which would be ontological violence, or conferred on myself by me, which is arbitrary and totally meaningless. So, no, and no. Yes, and yes, there are meaningful policy advocacies. Yes, I do have an affirmation, but the point is this. Can I suggest that policies aren't race-based? Sure. We need to enforce basic rights principles, right? If the police are violating somebody's negative rights, that's a crime. It's that simple. We need to treat it as such. We need to not to have them have some sort of special preference. We need to eliminate police unions because police unions have historically supported every act of violence by the police, no matter how outrageous it is.
I agree with that.
So these are real, meaningful policy prescriptions that are not race-based. Because I'm smart and not dumb and racist.
He's right about that, you know.
It doesn't matter if the BLM people are making meaningful policy advocacies. If they're going under the name of Black Lives Matter and they think it's race-based, those policies are going to be horribly misguided, no matter how well-intentioned. I am correct 100% of the way. It is not possible to use race well in any argument. It's fundamentally a ad hominem. It's making the mistake that ontological qualities are determinant in what ought to be a defensibility issue. So, oh, fuck off. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, Aaron. That's not true. Let me read my debate cards for you. I just can't help it. I just can't help telling everybody to fuck off, can I? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me?
There's nothing wrong with you. It was in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
The black person every now. Heat of the moment. Came out your mouth.
Basis for race. There is more difference among so-called races than between them. Any attribution of the status African American, for example, is wholly arbitrary. Quote, people have different complexions, but that's a far different thing from saying that people with different complexions actually comprise races of people. Scientists have certainly tried to prove for a long time that there are different races, and it's all been disproven. It's bunk. Today, we even understand that there is more genetic diversity within the so-called races than between them. The anthropologist Carol Mukhopadhyay writes about how things that we think of as demonstrating a biological basis of race are just not true. Quote, in the United States, the sickle cell gene is more common among African Americans than other populations, but it is not a racial gene. The genetic variation that causes it is also found in parts of South Asia, Southern Europe, and the Middle East. It is found in only some parts of Africa. When we turn to the racial category Black, Africa has hundreds, if not thousands, of linguistically, culturally, politically, and historically distinct populations. Africa is home to the shortest and the tallest people in the world. Other traits vary significantly, including skin color, facial traits, overall body shape, even the frequency of sickle cell and lactose intolerance. The problem with Americans and other people's folksy way of defining who's who based on skin color is that skin color is not a discrete trait. There's a spectrum of gradation of skin colors, and so marking off on an arbitrary point at which to say someone paler than this is one thing and someone darker than that is another is not a naturally occurring division between people. Pam! Pam! Pam!
I'm golf clapping right now.
Thank you. Mashed potatoes. Boom. Wrecked. Correct, Raphael. So, no, race is not a real thing. Black is not a real division between people. It's not a naturally occurring one. And anything that reinforces that not naturally occurring division is racist and bad. I'm absolutely for police reform. I was the number one advocate for this before anybody else had ever started arguing about this shit, had ever heard about that first case. I don't remember the guy's name. That started this whole thing, right? The first case started. What is that guy's name? Do you remember?
No.
But the one that started that people really started freaking out about the first time. Prior to that, I was a lone voice. I was a lone voice yelling about this shit in the darkness. Nobody was listening to me.
Are there videos of it?
No, it was prior to YouTube.
Oh, yeah. It was like
but it was like on Facebook. I have all these posts like this bullshit happened with the cops and this bullshit. And nobody cares. What the fuck? You know? That was what I did before anybody else had ever heard of this shit. And then to see what ought to be considered a big problem finally be considered a big problem and have racists co-opt it is fucking infuriating.
That's the double-edged sword of the 748. You're always ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I'm way ahead of the curve. On this one, I was way ahead of the curve, and I'm way ahead of the curve on this whole race shit, and I'm way ahead of the curve on the COVID shit too. I said from the outset, let it run its course. Now we see exactly that I was right from the beginning. Also made these massive spikes as soon as we start opening up again. I predicted exactly this. I said, if we do quarantine, what's going to stop the disease from just taking off again as soon as we open up the quarantine? And nobody had any fucking answers. I haven't even. I'm still Myrrh. I'm still Myrrh today.
What's Myrrh?
Merman. That's my race today.
Definitely Merman, because Merman get no respect.
We prefer to just be called Myrrh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just myrrh. Okay, it's a myrrh thing you wouldn't understand. It's a myrrh thing.
Myrrh, especially the male type, do not get respect in the myrrh community. But I do want to let you know that the cards that you bought me are so gender fluid, actually, that there is a merman in the picture.
Thank God. People think we don't have penises because we have tails down there. It's underneath the scales. Okay. I'm so sick of people going, merman has no penis, taunting me like that. I do. It's underneath my scales. Mer lives matter. Okay, now that I'm gonna embrace. Mer lives matter.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I agree with that too.
I'm glad somebody's making sense around here. Now that's different. Mer lives do matter. I tell you what other kind of lives matter is Sasquatches. I agree with you, up dim plates 48. Oh, they're sub-Saharan. I totally agree with you. I'm glad you retracted the message, but I totally agree. It's such a ridiculous division.
Yeah.
What is this freak smoking? Marlboro Red? What are you smoking? I assume you come in here having heard none of my arguments yet and already dismissing me. Is that right, Mother Guns? So, are you here to learn, or are you here to listen, or are you here to make arguments, or what? MLM is no pyramid scheme. Listen, you have a really good opportunity to get in now early, and you're going to make a lot of money here. So, Mother Guns, what's your angle? Hit me with your best shot. Fire away. To observe. Right. So here's the gist of my arguments, Mother Guns. Any appeal to race is inherently a racist notion. That race is not a real thing, and that it always detracts from the actual policy issues. The police reform is absolutely necessary, and it's been necessary for a long ass time, and that it shouldn't be co-opted by a bunch of racists who care about the divisive issue of arbitrary self-identification according to some folksy notions. Right. Well, look, the thing is, people do learn hate. They learn to hate. And there's some intellectual satisfaction, I suppose, in hating because it resolves cognitive dissonance. If you're upset about something, you can always take it out on the group that you hate, you know? And that's going to make you feel somehow, I guess, distracted from your own pain. Yeah, please.
Empty.
And the thing is, I am a strong advocate against groupism of all sorts. I've always been. So it's funny that people come in here and try to call me racist. Like Black Lives Matter advocates come in here and want to try to call me racist. Well, that's going to fail utterly because unlike them, I'm anti-groupist. I understand that all groupism is the same, whether it's racism, sexism, democratism, republicanism, whether it's Catholics versus religionism or whatever. It's all the same. It's all a form of ontological violence. That is to say, try to force onto another person or yourself some constraint of identity that's unnecessary and artificial. It's identifying with a group for the purpose of separation and divisiveness, and for the purpose of dismissing certain people and their ideas and ways because they're a member of a certain group. Now, it may be the case, however, having said that, that certain groups are consistently guilty of certain kinds of bad behavior. The point of this is, even though, let's say, Islamic civilizations, they have what I would call appalling and reprehensible public policy about groups. In other words, they arrest atheists, they give women less rights, they take away rights from women. They're very much about everybody must conform to the group, right? But the problem is, anytime I talk about any individual person of that faith, I cannot presume anything about them just because that faith in general correlates with something. And faith is something that we can actually say, well, that's a real identity. Those people actually identify as something that is real, namely it has a book of rules that goes along with it. Now, whether we think that book of rules is real or not, whether we think that book of rules ought to be paid attention to, it's a meaningful distinction between people. They say, I self-identify as correlating with this book of rules, and you self-identify as correlating with that book of rules. That's a meaningful distinction. So, unlike race, there's nothing you can say about a race that's not racist.
Here's the funny thing, though, with those religions, if they really look at it, they're all so similar.
I don't think Islam and Christianity are very similar.
The root of it.
Well, they both Abrahamic religions.
Yeah,
That's true. But, they have very different perspectives on the world.
No, well, that's what I mean. It diverges. I'm not trying. I'm just trying to say that, religion doesn't have to be that way, but it is created that way.
They tend to stem from, there's your Eastern traditions and your Western. Yeah. But
what happened?
Sky Gear, I actually agree with you. Yes. Satanists tend to be pretty chill. I used to self-identify as a Satanist quite a long time ago.
Thanks for visiting me.
But it was just, what I meant by that was, I had my own interpretation of it, which was that the inherent will is a moral will. And so to do as thou wilt is to embrace the moral course. So, but that obviously is a weak line of argumentation. I ended up abandoning it quickly enough. Which goes to show you just how you can't get too caught up on names, Cloud, right? Because depending on how you define something, it means something very, very different. So you're really attached to this word Satanist, but it doesn't mean what you think it means at all. It means what people define it to mean, basically. No, Cloud, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Depends how people use the term. Did you hear what I just said before?
Can I tell you a story about a scar that I have?
Sure.
So I went to a wedding and someone dropped their glass of beer on my foot, and I didn't even know it happened, but it created a scar, and I wanted to get it stitched that night because it was deep. I knew it was deep. And this drunk chick comes out and she's like, "I'm a doctor. I think you'll be fine. Just go in and have fun." And I'm like, "Fuck you!" I did. I talked back to her. I was like, "No, I'm getting this stitched up. I'm going. I was like, I don't care what you say. Thank you very much for your opinion, but I'm going to the hospital to get myself stitched up."
Do you think she was really a doctor?
No.
Oh, do you think she was just bullshitting?
Yeah. Because the bride was crying.
So, Cloud says here, there were human sacrifices in Aztec culture thousands of years ago. Human sacrifices are wrong because why, Cloud? They're rights violating. They violate the basic principle of rights, which is that everybody owns their own body.
Oh, and I was sober, too, actually.
You were sober.
I was sober, yeah. That's how I knew how serious it was.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel a poop coming on pretty soon.
Yay!
It's starting to really...
I had a really big one this morning, that's why.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's so wonderful.
It is.
Ooh. I mean, up to plates, I define faith in the sensible way to define it, which is it's belief in the absence of evidence or in the presence of contrary evidence.
You are the perfect definition of faith.
Yeah.
You're given the perfect.
That is what it is, right?
Yeah.
That's faith.
It is.
No, it's wrong because it violates rights, Cloud. It just because somebody sacrifices somebody else doesn't mean they enjoy killing them. So what if they didn't enjoy killing them? Then is it okay? Just because you think it's a good idea to kill somebody doesn't mean you enjoy it.
Definitely not. Like that INFP couldn't even do it in the Saving Private Ryan.
But then afterwards you get.
I never saw the movie.
You know, so
No, that's a movie I never saw.
They
I gotta see it.
like their army ends up capturing that German as a prisoner, and then the INFP ends up killing him.
Redemption?
Yeah.
That's good.
Sort of, but I mean, he already lost his friend.
That sucks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, sure. There are sociopaths out there and evil people who enjoy doing evil, but that's the greatest minority of evil. The vast majority of evil happens in well-intentioned ways, like Black Lives Matter is a great evil, but it's well-intentioned. It's not done by people who enjoy killing and hurting, and yet it's a great evil. So we need to understand that.
If we want to look at anything, look at like history with the Martin Luther King Jr. Everything they did was peaceful. Everything. And that's how they made progress with civil rights.
Yeah, she's right. And it's like, the meaningful successes in the world, Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and stuff, have a nonviolent approach, and they have justice on their side.
Yeah.
BLM has forsaken having justice on its side when it started tearing down statues and
shit. That's the problem. Exactly.
Your political opinions don't justify committing crimes any more than the cop's racism justifies committing crimes. If a cop is racist and that's why he killed that guy, well, that didn't justify him killing that guy. But the problem is he killed the guy in an unjustified passion.
Right.
Not why he would. If he had said, I killed him because he had a clown nose on, and I hate people with clown noses, would we say, oh, well, that's not nearly as bad? Well, why is it not nearly as bad? It makes, it's like, it's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what your arbitrary reason is. Now, look, there are non-arbitrary reasons, Rafael Balleros. There are non-arbitrary reasons, but those are things like self-defense or retributive or rehabilitative justice. And there's a whole series of ways to test to see if a given use of force is just or not. But unjust uses of force are acts of aggression, and that's the problem. If nobody should be able to use violence, no, okay, that's what I said. I know you pushed that before you heard, but I understand. I'm going to repeat it anyway. The thing is, there are absolutely legitimate uses of force, and they are based on the fact that when somebody violates another person's rights, they forsake their own rights.
Right. But that's just common sense.
10 dislikes versus 2 likes. People don't even listen before they
You're right.
They decide to dislike it,
Exactly.
They have strong political opinions and they want to express those. So there's a pretty basic mechanics to it, Rights respecting citizens should have their rights respected.
I mean,
now the other thing is this: just because somebody forfeits some of their rights doesn't mean they forfeit them all. And the police have a positive obligation as part of their job,
Yes.
a professional obligation to defend people's life and limb and well-being, even when they've gotten themselves into some kind of trouble and forfeit their rights.
Yes.
A crazed killer is breaking into your home. Who do you call? Social worker or the police? The police, of course. I'm not anti-police. I'm not anti-police at all. If you think that if you think I'm anti-police, you're absolutely wrong. I've had good experiences with the police by and large, and
Yeah.
I've not had bad experiences. But the thing is, I interact with them very well, so I don't really worry about it. I know how to interact with them. I do experience some, I guess, demographic advantages, but the point is, the police need to do a good job no matter who calls them in that context.
Right.
They need to shoot the right person and not the wrong person. If they're going to shoot anybody, if there's a crazed killer. Now, how we know this person's a crazed killer right off the bat before they actually kill anybody, we don't know. But let's assume we do know that this is this guy who's been on a rampage, running from the cops, and he runs into your house. Well, presumably the cops are already chasing him. But if you have somebody breaking into your home, let's say a home invasion person or something, obviously you're going to call the cops. If I have my car stolen, I call the cops. I am somebody who believes we should definitely not defund the police. That's crazy. We should reform the way the police approach problems fundamentally. They should be demilitarized.
Yes.
I mean, not as much as Norway's police.
No.
I don't know if you've ever seen this video. There's this video of this drunk guy with like a stick or something successfully keeping away the Norwegian police.
That is too much.
For such a long time.
Oh my god, that's hysterical.
I'm opposed to both of them, Lero A.
Definitely not as much as the Norway police. Hell no.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Aren't they civil servants too? They have to take tests and everything.
Who? Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. The Norwegian police, they
No.
just.
I mean, our police.
Oh yeah. Well, most police do a great job.
Yeah.
You know, most police are good police.
Yeah, my uncle is a police officer. He was lieutenant in New York.
Upton Place, you're absolutely right.
One of the best people I've ever met. Like the kindest soul.
Yeah,
ever.
I mean, I've dealt with some really great cops before. I have no problem with cops.
Yeah, even with my situation.
Upton Place 48, with that cop killing the black man, the simple solution is to take his job away and convict him. That's
and they
just
did.
What I think. And that's what they did. And that's the point I was making earlier on, too, is what in the hell are people protesting?
Exactly.
You protest when they don't do that. And that's what they've done in the past. They've said, oh, well, Officer Bob killed Joe Jackson and nobody cares and nobody's doing anything. That's what it used to be. Now they're doing it right. They're firing the cop, arresting the cop.
Yep.
There's nothing to protest. What's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine. I just felt like being controversial this morning, I guess. I don't know. Feeling annoyed by Black Lives Matter. That's true, Sky Gear. Mother Guns, the truth is, if the killer broke into my house, if I had time, I'd get the 22 rifle that we have here, and I'd shoot him. And if I didn't have time for that, I'd call the cops. I'd probably call the cops just because I wouldn't even think about it. I don't know. I haven't even seen that gun in years. I just know it's still in the closet. I mean, the thing is, people have all kinds of crazy theories about what's going on. The reality is the health organization people seized the reins on the narrative in such a way that that people can't feel like they can't object legitimately to the COVID lockdown, which should, of course, the virus should be allowed to run its course. Let it run its course. It's the only sensible solution. Exactly what I predicted before has come true. Oh, well, in America, if somebody breaks into your home with intent to commit a crime and you shoot them, it's considered justified use of force. Banamoinen, bam, bam, right on the nose. Banamoinen, right on the noise. I almost said because your name is Banamoinen. Right on the nose, mister. It's a cultural shift where people are feeling the dissonance without any true obstacles seen. That's imaginary obstacles that form, so an illusionary cultural shift being globalized. Me, I have fired guns on a couple of occasions in my life. Once I fired a handgun in Kansas. That got Taylor into some trouble, or what's related to that. Because I allegedly shot at some geese. I guess I wasn't supposed to shoot. I don't know. And I have fired this 22 rifle before. Now, note, Winston's mom, it's a single shot bolt action. Okay, so you can put one bullet in and you go like this, which one of those directions, and then it's ready to shoot. I am not claiming that I be good at it. Okay, don't get me wrong. I am not claiming that I would be good at shooting at somebody, but I would not be unwilling to if they were like some burger came in and was like pummeling my father. You know, I'd ride out of the bedroom with that and I pointed at him and I'd probably just shoot him. You know, I guess. I try not to shoot my dad, of course. That'd be important. I got you, motherfucker. I got that fly. A guy high on PCP is running naked down the street with a knife in his hand. You call a drug counselor? No, you call the police, but you expect the police to successfully apprehend the guy without anybody getting hurt and to use the minimum amount of force, even though they could get away with using more. That's what you expect, mother guns. That's the correct answer. There's this great video, I've seen it before, of a cop. A guy's running down the street with him with a sword. Running down the street at him with a sword. The cop's got his guns out and he's saying, I don't want to shoot you. I don't want to shoot you. And he successfully moves and gets the guy's hands and successfully apprehends him without shooting him. And the guy's chasing him down the street, waving, trying to slash him with a sword. Now that's a good cop. That's the best cop in America. He successfully apprehended a guy when he had every justification in the world to shoot him. Nobody would have said anything. He successfully managed to not shoot him and apprehend him anyway. That's a good cop. He didn't shoot him at all. He just maneuvered him, you know? He like pulled a little move and grabbed his ass. That's a good cop. That's the cop that should be like, this is how you should be, cop. Right? The cop who didn't shoot the guy who was chasing him with a sword. Thanks, Mrs. Bob. Yes, we now have faith that as long as we have some speaker wire with us, if we get stuck in the wilderness, we are going to be able to make a fire.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I'm confident.
I'm confident of it too.
All we need is to make sure we always have speaker wire with us.
I personally think that we would be able to. You have enough, like, you've watched the shows. I come up with like weird TE workarounds that work, and it probably would work. I know how to build I would be able to put together something for
mother guns. In that case, take him down. If you got a sniper who can shoot him without shooting the woman, take him down. That's where you draw the line. See, that's where you draw the line. That person is actively threatening a woman with a knife to her head. Then fine, snipe the guy.
Okay, so that I only thought that you can shoot at someone as a cop, that you could only shoot another person if they shoot you first, at you first?
No. They have to be reasonably in fear for their life.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
somebody, for example, the somebody were to pull a gun up and point at the cops, then they're justified in shooting.
Gotcha.
But if the person has a gun in their holster, they're not justified in shooting.
Gotcha.
I like Skugger, I like your answer.
Sure.
What's that?
Your handsome face should be more of the shot.
Oh. Van Moynihan, I like your solution too. We're always hearing about these bad guys who take PCP and have superhuman powers. When the cops encounter them, why not give PCP to the cops? Let's give PCP, give bath salts and PCP to the cops, and then they'll have superhuman powers too.
Yeah, bath salts people eat people.
What if the gun is a BB gun and it's pointed at the cop? I mean, in that case, you'd have to contextually see a lot of factors. How clear is it that it's a BB gun, and how clear is it not? How old is the person pointing it at the cop? I mean, the thing is, the bottom line is, we have to remember that the cop's obligation is to do what they can to preserve everyone's life, liberty, and well-being to the extent that they can. And that there are circumstances where they won't be able to, but they need to be very much, opposed to those situations.
Correct.
Hero cops are those who err on the side of getting themselves shot, and before they start firing bullets. That's a hero cop. A bad cop is the kind who always errs on the side of saving his own skin. That's the sort of shit the police unions always used to say. Like, well, no matter what, we can't put our lives at risk. That's exactly what your fucking job is.
That's right. That's why I was unjustly arrested before. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, cops pull bullshit sometimes. No doubt about that.
But I still respect the force. I do believe that police lives matter too. So
yeah, of course.
Everyone's lives matter.
The point is, it's about individual human beings.
Exactly.
Just as it always is. And I have dealt with some cops that I did not like at all. For example, when they busted the pot shop and I was in there buying weed and I was just a customer, their choice to make me stand around there and just sort of, use whatever legitimate ability they had to fuck up my afternoon a little bit, to the extent that they could, to use that and actually implement it that way, that was unnecessary. They could have let me go right away. It was obvious I was shopping there. I did not work there. Nothing about me indicated that I did. And they, including the fact that the staff had my ID, because you had to turn in your ID when you go in and you get it back in that store. I didn't like the way they treated me, but they did everything by the book. So I don't really have any big complaints. Right. It's like they weren't cool, but they didn't violate my rights or anybody else's rights. They didn't use any violence. I think that it was bullshit that they stole all this weed and stuff, but they did it by the book. So it limited my ability to complain about it.
Right. And if you do it by the book too, they'll respect you.
Right. I did it by the book too. Yeah. I didn't try to, I did talk a little bit. I did complain a little bit. Okay. But I also didn't try to make any indication that I'm not going to comply. I always began with, I will comply, but I don't like this, Yeah. And that's how you got to do it.
And you got to tell the truth too.
Yeah, I did.
Do not lie.
Right.
Do not lie.
Yeah, I learned that lesson. I should have told the cops that I had weed when they asked me. Because it's like, you got to take a stance either way. Either you're in the right, in which case don't lie about it.
Yeah. That's just the thing.
Or you're in the wrong, and you got a choice whether you're going to
Okay,
double down and lie about it, or just come clean. And it's always a bad idea to double down when you're wrong.
Yeah.
So either way, it doesn't make any sense to lie.
Oh my god, I could have killed. I was so calm though. The way they arrested me was so unjust. Even like the person that I was with was like telling them like, she has nothing to do with this. Like, why are you arresting her? But like, I again like was just like, I take the peaceful route. I'm like, I'm not gonna be the one who fucks up. Like, I'm very aware of the law and I'm very aware of people. So, I know this is wrong. But I'm not gonna be like a fucking brat right now. I'm being arrested.
Right.
Like,
You got to let the police do their job even if they're doing it badly, and then you can argue about it later. Ethan McDonald, all these incidents are being disproportionately publicized in order to fit the mainstream media's narrative about racial. Look, the mainstream media's narrative comprises a bunch of different individual people who all share basically the same opinion about things. It's not some sort of conspiracy. There's no they. This is a naturally occurring discursive clusterfuck because people don't listen to Eric enough. I've never seen a narcissistic FE user. Have I? Yes. Yes. Totally. I lived with a narcissist ENFJ for a while.
Did you?
Yeah, he didn't negatively impact me much because he
Oh yeah.
he kept trying,
You
but
thought he was an ENTP for a while, right?
I did think he was an ENTP for a while. It's like, look, Jordan Peterson made his hay by having this very public stance against identity politics in Canada. And he was right about this one thing, and he parlayed it into this massive career, and then had himself medically put into a coma like an idiot. But anyway, the point is, I'm right about everything, just about. I mean, occasionally I'll be wrong about something, and then I won't be wrong about it again. Okay, well, the police officer's job is not to defend the public good. It's to enforce laws in a way that preserves individual well-being. When police think their job is to defend the public good, that's when they get overzealous, overactive. That's when you have things like stop and frisk. Their job is to enforce the law when people commit crimes. Cops, it may be a good idea to have cops patrolling, just to sort of discourage crime. But by and large, the job of the police should be to respond when somebody calls them. Not to,
your job.
Right. Not to go find things to bust. Not to have sting operations on drugs and stuff, right?
That's what happened with me.
The thing is, they're supposed to be responsive, not proactive.
Uh-huh.
When cops are proactive, they seek to do their job, which is enforcing the laws when people commit crimes.
You're reminding me of stuff.
Well, there may be neighborhoods in which there are more crimes, and it may justify more patrolling in those areas.
Yeah. But
we have to, again, define crimes meaningfully. If you're going to define crimes as drug stuff, then you're not defining crimes meaningfully.
Right.
If you're talking about which neighborhoods are there more murders, are there more assaults and stuff? Well, then, yeah, we want maybe have more patrols in those neighborhoods. The cops are going to have to respond to those neighborhoods more frequently. What difference does it make?
And if you're asked if you're an undercover cop looking for drugs, you should answer.
Well, they don't have to.
I know they don't. They don't have to do anything.
I mean, the thing is, as with anybody, any kind of profession, it's always a mistake to make a big mistake around me.
You're so lucky. I mean, they're so lucky that, like, you... Well...
They did their job as they're supposed to. Smart cops...
No. This is years ago I'm talking about. But it's okay, because justice won in the end, I'm telling you. Like, justice win. Because it was Jen's fault. She just kicked me out of her house. And then she, like, a month later, she was hospitalized. So she got her ass kicked, too.
Well, it's all behind you now.
What?
It's all behind you now.
Exactly. Isn't that nice?
It is. Love thy neighbor, but don't pull down your hedge, Benjamin Franklin. Good advice. I'm very curious about this ENFJ man. He certainly wasn't just fun with bicycles. You know, he was narcissistic, or very close to it. He had that textbook refusal to really be accountable for anything, and you know, he was constantly trying to tear me down in some way or another, trying to take me down a notch. But it kept failing because he was an ENFJ and I'm an ENTP, and he just, at that benefactor-beneficiary relationship, there's a certain dynamic to it that makes it hard to get ahead of your benefactor.
Yeah, it is. When PB thinks that I'm on Triple's side, she gives me a look.
Is
she won't let me pat her right away.
Is she your benefactor or beneficiary?
I'm the beneficiary.
Oh, you're the beneficiary.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So no wonder that you two have such a tight relationship, and she and I are a little more distant. You know, because she's my conflictor.
Yep. So isn't it nice too?
No, I don't think ENFJs do that by nature. They don't necessarily try to tear people down all the time. Most ENFJs, good ENFJs, will try to build people up, not tear people down. And maybe you don't like the way they're building you up. Maybe their advice is not what you want to hear, but they're still trying to build you up. I'm an ENTP, 7th circle. Whereas the negative ENFJs are always trying to use their understanding of the world to tell you what's wrong with you. Don't listen to Sky Gear. He's an INTP who can't keep his promiscuous any tool function from going crazy. Yeah, they often don't want to hear where they're wrong because, well, they're NI tool, and so that's going to coincide with that. Okay, I think I'm about ready to end this live stream. I want to thank you all for being here. And it is possible that I'm an INTJ pretending to be an ENFP, pretending to be an ISTP, pretending to be an ESFP, pretending to be an ISFJ, pretending to be an ENTP, pretending to be an INTP, pretending to be an ENTP. That's possible. I could be that.
Who just said that? Because they are right on the nose.
That was 7th circle. Boom. You nailed it. You nailed it. I'm actually an INTJ. On that big pretend circle. All right. Have a good day. I'll be back later, I'm sure. You know me.